Hello and welcome back to Just Kiss My Frog. Today we are talking intimidation, competition and the publishing world. I hope this video, I look like old Mother Hubbard, I don't care, it's freezing! I am going to talk specifically in this video about publishing, but I do hope this video is going to be applicable to you if you feel like you are thinking about getting into an industry that is known for being a competitive space to be in. So I'm doing a series on publishing and I got this DM from a girl called Emma, Emma Popcorn actually, who has a YouTube channel, it's very good. So she has DM'd me saying, I've just been watching your video on publishing and it's reminded me of my childhood dream to work in the publishing industry. I always used to pore over the acknowledgements section in books and dream of having my name in there one day. I thought I was over this ambition, but apparently not. Your videos reminded me how much I care about books. I was wondering what the first steps might be to getting into the industry. Now I'm going to do another video, or maybe I already have, who can say, about how to get into the publishing industry, some steps, but I just wanted to address the first part of it was that this kind of anxiety and feeling uninvited in any industry, but for me specifically the publishing industry. So as a background, I grew up in Coventry, it's really near Birmingham. I didn't grow up knowing anybody in publishing. There aren't any publishers where I live. The way I access books primarily was through the library, and it didn't really occur to me that people made books. When I did get to university, however, the people who were on my English course, and you see, I feel like English is one of those obvious ways where it's like, your degree is about books, maybe you want to go and make books. Your degree is about finance, you're encouraged to go and make more finances. Your degree is zoology, you're encouraged to go and work in a zoo. But with an English degree, it's really weird because actually so few people on lots of courses talk about getting into publishing and making books. There's lots of talk about writing books and there's lots of talk about the academic study of books. But you'd think there'd be a little bit more rhetoric around the making of the books. And I think part of this is because there is this rumour going around the whole of the UK and probably the world that publishing is incredibly competitive, and if you don't know anybody, you can't get in. This wasn't my experience at all, and I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on it because it makes me sad that there are so many talented people. It's not even from a pity perspective where I'm like, oh yes, you can do it. You need us, but we can help you. It's like, we need you. You know, if you are graduating from university and you're super intelligent and innovative and creative, I am devastated that those people are going to other industries. We need them in publishing. And I hope that if you are considering what you want to do with your life, what you want to do with your career, you will consider publishing, even if you don't know anybody in it, or even if you think that it's hard to get into. I remember being on my masters and feeling a little bit helpless because I'd been living at home, working while doing my masters, and I just wanted to do something with it. For me, it was a weird one because I actually hadn't really been thinking about going into publishing. One, I think because when I was a kid, it didn't really occur to me, you know, I was absolutely obsessed with books, but it didn't really occur to me that people made them. I just thought maybe like, you know, the author wrote the book and then they just like sent them to print. Wouldn't that be magic? And then later on, I was given the impression by fellow students who also didn't know anything about it, maybe by the institutions as well, that publishing just wasn't something easy to get into and therefore wasn't something that I should have on my list, which is weird because everything is kind of hard to get into. There are so many industries that we are encouraged to go for, encouraged to get to, that are really competitive. But so I don't really understand why there was so much of that rhetoric around it. So I was in this environment where everyone's like, oh, you know, publishing is really hard to get into. You have to know somebody, otherwise it's not going to work. They have so many applicants. It's just not going to happen. So I genuinely did kind of abandon the idea and was like, oh yeah, that would be cool, but obviously it's not going to happen. I met a girl online, you might know her. Her name is Sana. We barely knew each other. She just moved to the UK, and she just invited me to her birthday party because she just moved to the UK. She didn't know that many people. And it was just this chance encounter online that I just said yes to. And, you know, the party was in London, and I was like, okay, I'm on the train. I, you know, used my wages to pay to get this train to this party, and was like, yeah, like I want to take a step to make friends with people. No agenda. She also didn't have a job in publishing, and I was just like, yeah. And when I was at that party, I made friends with a lovely girl called Maddie. I shouldn't say lovely girl, that's patronising. A brilliant woman. She now is a civil servant, and she talked to me about her job in publishing. Said, hey, this is what it's about. You're like seem like a really enthusiastic person. You know, we should meet up again. And I'm like, yeah, we should. That'd be cool. Mine was a really lucky chance encounter. And from that, like, we met up again. She offered me to come and be an intern. So I emailed her my CV and applied. I took 2 weeks off my job. I saved up for train fare and I did it. And actually, I never left London, which is another story altogether. But I kind of did that 2-week internship, and that was the beginning of my life in publishing and London, and the beginning of being the person that I am, really. It's incredibly like lucky, one moment to the next kind of thing. And then going on to work for that company, rise in that company. It's a small independent publishing house. I became the person who trained the interns, and then I became the person that hired the interns. I hired a new intern every 2 weeks, and I didn't know any of them. I knew 1 or 2 of them, but only because they'd made friends with me in the same way that I'd chatted to Maddie. But 80% of the people that I, gave an opportunity to, I had no idea who they were. I just read their CV. I thought they sounded cool. They had a really boss cover letter, and I was like, come on, let's do it. We'll talk paid and unpaid work experience, internships, starter jobs in another video, the whole shebang, promise. For me, this whole barrier fell down, where I was like, oh, the people who are hiring the interns are there isn't a secret formula. There isn't this huge barrier to entry. There isn't that they're just picking who they know, because physically, how could I know 30 people a year that wanted to work in publishing? Actually, there's way more opportunities than there are kind of association connections. So that was a big learning curve for me. I was like, oh, I never thought about that, maths. And the only other thing I would say when it comes to the practical side of things, I work for a pretty big company called Penguin Random House. There used to be 2 of the biggest publishing houses in the country, and now they're one publishing house. And everybody knows who they are. I love them. I think they're brilliant. I work for them. But everybody knows who they are. Everybody knows what Penguin Books is. It's a huge consumer-facing brand. But there are so many publishing houses that aren't consumer-facing. They don't do marketing themselves. They market the books. So you wouldn't have heard of them unless you look at those spines or you Google it. And the amazing thing is that now we can Google it. I feel like some of these rumours have come from ages past, when the internet wasn't about, and publishing was way less diverse. There was really no access to information about publishing if you didn't know somebody. But these things have they're being solved right now, slowly. And the access is there. You can Google all the publishing houses in the bloody country and find out lots about them at the click of a finger, and that's what's incredible. And I think that some of the rumours or the feeling in publishing that it's really competitive and it's impossible to get an internship is because a lot of people are applying to these huge companies, which is totally fine, but there's literally hundreds of thousands of people doing it. And it doesn't mean that it's not possible, but there's lots of other places where, for instance, I was hiring a couple of years ago for an entry-level job in a publishing house that was a small publishing house, and I only got 30 or 40 applications, which compared to a huge company who might get 800 applications is really quite small. So there's lots of things like that mean that you might be competing in lots of people that you don't need to. On the competition thing, we're now going to the emotional side of that question. Why you might feel like it is an oversaturated industry and you can't get into it. People feel like this for a lot of industries, and I completely understand. But I think a few things to take away from the fact that your industry feels like it's crowded, oversaturated, like there's so many people in it that it's so competitive, is because it might be a really cool field to go into. One of the indicators of lots of people wanting to do something is that it's generally quite fun. So I think it's also asking the question, are you gonna make a judgment call on yourself and your own skills that early on in your personal life and your career, and say, hey, actually, I'm not one of those people that gets to have fun at work. I'm not one of those people who gets the career that they want. I'm not one of those people who, it doesn't matter to the industry whether I get into the industry. It just matters to me, and I don't mind that much. I don't mind not doing the funnest thing I could possibly do. There's 2 falsified claims in that statement. One, that the publishing industry doesn't need you. They really need you. If you are hardworking and you care about books or whatever we're talking about, and you have new ideas, we genuinely need you. That is genuinely a thing. And also the assumption that you won't mind if you don't try to get it. And this is something that I think when I came out of university, I was so worried about getting a full-time position, getting a full-time job, moving out, having the money to survive and live, get the bus, eat, that I didn't really mind what I did, which is true. You don't mind when you're that age. You just want to be independent and you want to get out, and I completely understand that. But it doesn't mean that later down the line you won't mind that you went into an industry you don't care about. What I love about publishing is that I genuinely care about book. I don't know if you've noticed from this whole channel, but I think that books can save the world, and that is just a crazy, genuine belief of mine that I can't get rid of. I can prove pretty easily, and it sounds insane to some people, but it's the truth. I think not only if you love reading, because again, here's my bugbear, like people are like, I really like reading, so I should come into publishing, and I'm like, I mean, if you like reading, you're somebody I can sell a book to. It's not really the same thing. If you're somebody who cares about books existing, you care about authors, you care about ideas, and you can see parts of the industry that you want to make better, key point. If you think the publishing industry is important and could change things, but it could be better, we particularly need you. And actually, I think you should fight to have your place in a company or in a position where you get to make decisions or get to have conversations and influence people on your thoughts. Because there are lots of people that have started and will be starting in publishing who just want to do their little bit, and they like the way it is, and they don't want to make anything bigger or better or change things or make things more diverse or more affordable. And that's okay. It's all right to just, want to come to your job and come home and eat some soup and get on with your life. But if you think that you care about it a bit more than that, and you can see ways that we can improve stuff, we need you desperately. And skills can be practiced, acquired. Professions inherently are learned, but your morals and your beliefs and your insistent excitement for something can't be taught. And if you have that, there is nothing in you that should be telling you that, oh, actually, these people deserve it more than me, or like, I'm not even going to apply for that job because I'm sure there's lots of other people who are better at it than me. Or maybe they are better at it. Maybe they are better at it than you right now. But you've met these people and they might have really bad intentions for the publishing industry. They might be applying so they can ruin it. Probably not. But do they care about books as much as you? Do they have as many ideas as you? Maybe not. And maybe that is what gets you hired, not the things on paper. And the last point I wanted to make was about how exciting this industry is and how maybe it is really competitive. Maybe it is pretty, there's a lot of people trying to get to work in the way I do. But do you know what that also says to me? It says to me that's important. Book sales, physical book sales in the UK went up last year and the year before, I think. Like, this is a growing industry, whatever people say, and it's also a really important one. And the fact that so many people want to work in publishing begs two questions. Why aren't there more readers who want to buy books if books are such a cool thing to do? And I genuinely believe there's a restorative, attention span building, mindfulness, good for your mental health aspect to reading, not just that like it's old, people don't do it anymore. Why aren't there more people who are buying books and wanting to read? Books can be cheaper than Netflix subscriptions, so why are people... Not the point. And then also, why aren't there more jobs in publishing? Question, why aren't there? Well, these two questions are connected, and particularly women, but generally young people in this industry are on a mission. There are some incredibly talented people who are my age and a little bit older and a little bit younger in this industry at the moment, who I'm meeting every day. And every time I go to a big publishing event, I meet somebody who I'm like, oh shit, damn, you are gonna... And I predict that there are going to be so many strands to publishing in the future. There are so many ways it is changing. And I think that if there is something that collectively enough people want to exist and collectively enough people can grow a community of readers, then there are going to be more publishing houses and more opportunities, particularly independent publishing houses. And I don't know, maybe you're sitting at home and you've gone, oh, actually, I've applied to every single job in this industry and I can't get one. Maybe you should start one. Maybe if it's just one book a year, and I think there'll be lots of people who move through the industry at a faster rate than they used to. Maybe because they're leaving to go to bigger, similar crossover industries, celebrity PR, like films, like TV, like advertising, like general media, but there's also going to be people I think are going to go and start their own ones, and you can either be doing what they're doing right now in 5 years, or you can be going to work for them when they start them, because I genuinely think that's going to be a thing. The publishing industry is going nowhere, so feel free to count on it changing, surviving, existing in lots of iterations that it might not be right now. So just because you say, right, my lifestyle, my location, my my ability to get hired at the moment isn't making me somebody who's working in publishing, doesn't mean that it won't do in the future. So anyway, them's my revolutionary thoughts. Blah, blah, blah. I have got lots of videos on publishing, so if you want to watch those, you can click here. Thank you so much for listening. Do you care about books? Do you want to see the publishing industry work differently? Tell me how below, and I will see you in my next one. Frog Snug out.